Mad Mountain Monk here, giving you guys a 2-week update. Just getting some positive energy vibes around here right now. Some young deer. Maybe you can hear some hummingbirds, some squirrels and birds cruising around. Anyway, I'm just gonna talk about how the challenge is going. It's week 2 right now, so a little over, just about week 2 complete. And so far it's been going good. It's entering the kind of do or die time, where a couple days ago I was feeling nice and strong, and then now it's like I'm starting to just feel the kind of the broken down stage, where it becomes mostly just kind of pure willpower at this point. I'm not feeling too busted up in terms of physically, other than I got a little bit of kind of like elbow tendonitis going on, so kind of changed the way I've been doing push-ups, that sort of thing. The main thing I was going to talk about on this video was kind of dealing with the abstinence aspect of it, and because I think it's, this whole thing, I mean, what I'm really seeing too is like, I'm noticing kind of like a change in my body composition, where if I was just doing like powerlifting, which I like doing a lot of, it takes a lot less time, and it takes kind of a lot less commitment in terms, I mean, this takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of drive. It's like, oh man, I know they're said all these things, but kind of a different aspect of it is the abstinence, no porn, masturbation, any of that kind of stuff, and it's kind of like I'm just trying to have a clean slate. And the main thing I want to talk to you guys about, and again, this is mostly just for my own self too, is the kind of the wave of how our horniness and our turned onness is, where, and it's just, this is kind of the biggest thing, especially some guys that really have problems with it. And even in my own mind, I really realize is you have these oscillations, like a sinusoidal wave, where it'll peak and it'll just be like all you can think about. You'll just be sitting there in bed when you wake up or go to sleep, or you'll be looking at your phone and be like, oh, maybe I should text my ex, or that one girl I saw, we haven't talked in 2 months, but I'll just fire a text off at her. And then we get into these like kind of bad mindsets, where instead of thinking about the next book we are gonna read, or some sort of conclusion we just came across in another book, or some movie or whatever that left us in a good impression, or gave us some things to think about, we're caught up in this endless loop of who can we hit up to maybe hook up with, or like just fantasizing about some porn video, or some masturbation fantasy or whatever. And it's crazy because it'll hit you so strong, and you really have to, like, if you've never powered through these, it would be mind-blowing when you finally do power through some of them, because it's like, oh my god, when is this ever going to cease? This is never going to stop. What am I going to do about this? And then it's like, it's boom, it's so bad, it's all you can think about. And then like you just wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe you go read, you go outside, you feed your dog, anything like that, and then suddenly it's gone. You don't notice that it's gone unless you specifically think about it. It's just your mind is no longer like so turned on of like, oh, I haven't heard from Susie in an hour, maybe I'll go hit up Jessica, like I think I still had some potential there. She didn't burn me out too bad. It's things like that. And it'd be crazy too, because the term is kind of flatline, where like you won't really be sexually turned on at all, and you won't have like a desire to pursue girls in any way. And it's a really weird state to be in if you've never been in it before, because it's kind of like sometimes, depending on the flatline you're in, sometimes it's like you're really energized and you're like F this, I don't need girls in my life, I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna complete all these push-ups, I need to go do this, I need to go do that. But then sometimes so that's kind of like the good flatline. Some of the bad flatlines are like you're just kind of listless. For me that doesn't happen that often, but it's just one of those things too where you got to realize that life in general, and this is a really good microcosm to experience it, is life in general is this roller coaster of emotions. And that, especially, I'll talk about depression and that kind of stuff because I've gone through some pretty intense depression I've drugged myself out of. And what's so important in it is realizing that your feelings are not reality. And just because you're really turned on doesn't mean you need to go hit up a girl, or just because you're temporarily sad doesn't mean reality is actually sad. And that takes a lot to get into, but just talking about from like a abstinence or turned on point of view, the important thing is just kind of like realize the current state is not the state you're always going to be in, and it's not just this endless uphill, like rising kind of horniness or turned onness until you go whack it or go hook up with a girl. That it'll get like this, and you have these drives, and they're not always sexual drives. That's sometimes you'll hear the term like transmutation and these kind of things, where you're energized and like you'll be ready to fight. I mean, I'm not particularly a violent person. I've been in a couple of fights. I defend myself, but it's like when you're on these like kind of long sprees, you get really violent, where you just want to like this sounds bad to say, but like you're ready to just defend yourself. Like if someone's like hurting your chance at life, whether it's like writing a book or meeting this girl or hurting your job prospects, you're ready to defend yourself. It's like this virile masculine energy, and it's really awesome. And we drug and empty ourselves of this when it's so important to being a man. So another quote from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. This book's awesome if you've never read it. It's kind of hard to get into. The language is pretty weird, but it has a lot to do with willpower and self-actualization. And when you kind of realize that's what it's about, and that everything you're reading is kind of metaphorish, it's pretty good. So let me read this thing to you. But wherever I found living things, there I also heard the language of obedience. All living things are obeying things. And this I heard secondly, whatever cannot obey itself is commanded. Such is the nature of living things. This, however, is the third thing which I heard, namely that the commanding is more difficult than the obeying. Not because the commander beareth the burden of all obeyers, but because this burden readily crusheth him. An attempt and a risk seemed all commanding unto me, and whenever it commandeth, the living thing risk itself thereby. So the second part of that's kind of weird. The most important quote in this whole thing is the whatever cannot obey itself is commanded, such is the nature of living things. And this is so vital for willpower, where it's like if you don't command yourself, you're going to get commanded. And I don't mean that if you don't tell yourself to do push-ups, someone else is going to tell you to do it. If you're not taking control of your body to be healthy, eating healthy, or any of those kind of things, that essentially your health will come getting you later, in terms that you'll be going to the hospital, or you'll start having diabetes or bad blood pressure, anything along those lines. And that's that second part of that if you don't command yourself, you're going to be commanded. And that's just kind of it's the same kind of thing too, where it's like if you don't take control of your life one way or another, the life's going to take control of you. And it's fitness and health is kind of one of the easiest ways to explain that, because of the fact it's kind of like smoking, for example. I've never had that habit, fortunately, but I know a lot of people have a really hard time quitting. And it's like if you don't take control of those kind of habits, eventually you're going to be paying the price. And so just kind of closing, so far I'm about 2 weeks in, so almost halfway, and been going pretty good. I've had to kind of switch things up a bit as certain things start hurting. The still general rule is pushing exercises, pulling exercises, ab type things, legs, and then running, and then the meditation, abstinence, cold showers, that sort of thing. So far going good. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that I'm going to do it. at this point there's still a little bit of kind of like, oh man, you know, when is this over? I just want to take a break. And I also kind of realized that perhaps from a fitness point of view, it's certainly probably not the healthiest thing you can do, never taking a break. I've done this kind of thing before and I ended up like super jacked afterwards. And so I know that there's kind of, you know, repetitive motion type injuries you may be sustaining. Possibly, I don't think that's a super real threat, but it's more of just being able to take control of yourself and say, here's the goal, I'm gonna do it, I'm commanding myself, I'm not obeying anybody else because I'm obeying myself. All right, guys, see ya.